and welcome. Very excited to be here today talking to you all at the Environics Analytics User Conference. My name is Scott Mitchell, and I'm the Managing Director for Vistar Media. For our discussion today, we're going to be focusing on data and the impact that it's had in terms of creating strategies around more effectively targeting audiences in the physical world through audience movement patterns. For those of you who don't know, Vistar Media is a programmatic technology platform. Our software sits on each end of the out-of-home ecosystem, providing different benefits for each stakeholder. We work with world-class brands, agencies, and media owners in developing custom solutions to help address all of their benefits and needs. We work closely with brands and agencies in terms of helping apply these data strategies and insights to better target and reach their in-market consumers through audience movement patterns. We'll talk a little bit more about what those are and how they can apply to some of the strategies as you continue to look forward in your marketing efforts. Jumping right in. One of the biggest questions and answers that we get back when we talk to our partners in market, when we ask them about out-of-home or digital out-of-home, is that they say or assimilate it to billboards. Digital out-of-home and out-of-home is much more than just billboards. As you can see here from our slide, you'll notice a lot of the different venue types and different environments that you're able to actually engage and reach consumers as part of their day-to-day lives or day-to-day habits. These environments and venue types allow to continue to bring the power of out-of-home as a channel in terms of being able to reach these audiences at the right time and in the right places. We're also very proud to partner and work with every single major media owner in Canada, coming from Astral to Pattison to Outfront and all the way down the rest on this list. We also work extremely closely with several different data companies such as Environics Analytics, Foursquare, as well as measurement companies such as Dynata and Research Now. The core of what we do at Vistar is we look at and we use passive mobile location data to understand audience movement patterns. This is our core. We want to understand how consumers are moving throughout the day to best reach them at the right time and the right place. The way that we do this is through passive mobile location data in the form of GPS data, which gives us a foundational view in terms of how consumers are moving. You can liken this to how online marketers use cookies to define audiences. If we look at and take that concept of using a cookie in the online space to define and create audiences, you can think of if I went to a sports site 3 or 4 times, I could be bucketed as a sports enthusiast. In the out-of-home space and in the physical world and how we view using data in this same sense is we want to understand consumer movement patterns based on their physical habits. So for example, if you wanted to reach coffee drinkers, we could look at all the different coffee shops in any geographical location and understand any consumers who had been there, say, 2 to 3 times in the past week. The value that this offers to us is that we can define an audience based on that actual habit, and then we can start to understand where they move throughout the day. Because we're able to understand and define audiences based on the physical habits, we can start to deliver a tailored custom messaging based on the time, the right venue type, and allowing marketers to serve that right message, really being at the right time, the right place, and the right ad. This is very important in terms of when you think of using audience movement patterns to best target audiences. Mid-March or 2020 got off to a great start. However, mid-March, Canada was back down in lockdown. And the norm of what we were used to in terms of our behaviors, in terms of reaching audiences, had changed drastically. Audiences to different properties diminished, marketing budgets were canceled and shelved for the year, and this historical thinking of how marketers and brands were going to reach audiences needed to change. We weren't operating underneath normal circumstances, and our movement patterns and our behaviors as consumers were certainly not the same. The importance that needed to be taken, and because of this this change in audience movement patterns and behaviors of consumers had to kind of take a separate approach to embracing flexibility. We needed to change how we thought about this historical way that we wanted to target audiences, and we needed to input and understand how flexibility can help build at terms of reaching these audiences in a shorter period of time. We started to look at changing our message in the marketplace, and we started to look at how data was going to better embrace and change marketers' visions from this very traditional approach. If you take a look at this example here, we wanted to understand if when we took two comparisons of the exact same type of data and audience movement pattern, what they look like from 2019 to 2020. This is a great example in terms of being able to understand not only how audience moved, but also the value that it created during two different types of periods. On the left, we can see that budgets were high and that crowds were high. But however, when lockdown hit on the right, the budgets were cut and jobs were lost, unfortunately. And it was a different way that consumers were moving. Because of this new world that we were living in, we really needed to take a different lens in terms of how we were going to help our marketing partners and brands better reach their audiences. When we think of out of home, the time period in which we traditionally thought of an out of home reaching an audience could potentially be based on an 8-hour window. When we start to think about how we were going to target audiences in this net new world, that window changed to almost a 4-hour window. And so the ability that needed to be deployed was something that was going to be very targeted, and the ability to understand where this net new audience was moving. Carrying on with the theme in terms of using data to better inform how we bought, we worked with, I want to share with you a case study. We worked with a top 10 financial institution. One of the key objectives that they were looking for from this campaign was to drive awareness and to generate consideration and purchase intent for a high interest savings account. The target audience they were looking to reach was an adult 25 to 54. When we think of that data and we start to talk about that audience movement pattern, one of the key objectives was to actually partner and work closely with Environics Analytics to create and use the Prism segments to generate and build these audience movement patterns. The client wanted to take a different approach and wanted to leverage the existing efforts that they were using with the Prism segments and allowed us to take them to create an audience movement pattern. This did two things. One, it allowed the brand to have a unified definition of the audience they were leaving or that they were targeting. And two, it allowed the brand to now take advantage of reaching that right audience in the right time in the right space. The other benefit that we were able to garner when we start to apply data in the programmatic digital out-of-home space was our ability to then start to use it from a measurement standpoint. We're able to understand brand lift metrics such as awareness, consideration, and intent, as well as looking at other areas that may be more suited for other different types of clients, such as foot traffic studies. The results that we were able to see from this exact example was very favorable, and the client was quite happy. If we start to think about learnings in terms of in this net new world that we live in, is that we know that out of home is still part of the fabric of day-to-day lives. We know that people are still going out, and we also just understand that they're just moving differently. So the opportunity to still deploy and work with out of home during this time is still very much relevant and offers a lot of values. Data is going to continue to be at the heart of every decision that we hope marketers continue to make. Data allows us to have these informed decisions and to make real-time efforts in terms of reaching these audiences as they're making their way throughout the day. And we know that audiences are still moving about. The data shows it. They're just moving differently, and we're able to better capture that to understand how best we can better reach them through these different times. The last piece, and I think this is important, is understanding that if we're investing in out of home, and we're running the right types of data and the strategies that we're deploying are working, we're then able to now understand if it actually is having an impact. And so it's very important to continue to look at measurement as essential to helping understand how we're reaching audiences and the value that it's bringing to the ROI. What's next and looking forward? I don't have a crystal ball, but I think we continue to all agree that our lives will continue to be dynamic. The new normal that we're living through is going to continually change, and we're going to continue to move forward with a lot of these different ways of living, and we're currently adapting to. The marketing strategies will continue to adapt, and we know that there's not a return to the normal, but we're going to continue to look at the marketing strategies through this lens, and that we know that data will continue to guide these new decisions. Data will continue to be the heartbeat and continue to help us better reach audiences. Thank you for your time today, and excited to engage with you all as we go to the Q&A.